Welcome down the warp pipe. In case you're new, I'm Ty. And if not, thanks for coming back. Today, I want to talk about game prices, and more specifically, how game prices actually haven't changed that much over the years, despite it feeling like they've changed a whole heck of a lot. Whether it's grabbing a new game at launch or waiting for a sale, it's actually more common how things used to be, but the accessibility of games has definitely dropped. So today, let's discuss and talk about why it feels like games are so much more expensive, despite them actually being cheaper. So one thing we have to get out of the way here is that obviously games these days feel more expensive. They've been going up in price steadily over the last few generations. Most notably, you have the $10 increase from the 360 PS3, and then also the $10 increase that happened now with the PS5 and Xbox Series consoles. However, with things like Game Pass, that does alter it a bit, but I want to focus more on how games used to cost first. So initially you had stuff on the NES and the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. For me, I remember games being as expensive as 100 Canadian dollars, maybe even more. This is a pretty big price to pay, especially for a kid. I do remember getting games for cheaper, as they would go on sale more frequently or you'd buy them used, but the big thing that we all did back in the day, if you're as old as I am and remember it, is you went to rental stores. That's really what you had to do in order to play games. So if you were like myself, you were lucky enough that your parents would rent games for you. In my case, a game a weekend, but even if it was once a month, it allowed you to try something out and maybe even rent it multiple times and beat it for less than the cost of buying the game. For most people, you're gonna play most games one time all the way through and probably never return to it, at least in the complete sense. You might return to it for some fun here or there, especially those of us that are older that have games we're nostalgic for. You know, $100 back then is a lot more now. So even though we're paying $70 US versus what back then was probably still around the same $70 to $80 US for a cartridge, we're getting what feels like a lot less. Because although we make more money than we did then, so $70 in 1990s money is different than $70 in 2020 money, the problem is that we have so many more games to select from. Back then, there wasn't as much selection. Games were more difficult, but took shorter amounts of time in order to beat. And more importantly, we had the option to play them without buying them. And that's something that is really uncommon. Even something as simple as a couple generations ago being able to trade your games in. I've seen friends go from buying every new release, beating it and trading it in, to then buy more new releases, to just simply buying more games, waiting for them to go on sale. And it's great that things like that happen. They definitely used to back in the day as well. You can look at the old advertisements on archive.org from game magazines, and that actually gives a great picture into how much games used to cost. But the problem isn't that games necessarily cost so much. One, they're obviously around the same price. However, the cost of living has gone up. If you look at back in 1990s, the average person was paying a smaller percentage of their wage as living expense. This isn't true for everyone, and everyone is going to be in a different situation because of where they live. However, for most of us, I'm betting that this is true. And in the case of Nintendo games, if you're waiting for a sale, good luck. The most you're ever going to get is 33% off, almost guaranteed, whether it's physical or digital. So you're buying that game at that full price, or you're waiting until the generation is gone and no one cares about those games anymore, so you can pick them up at a player's choice price, which really doesn't exist anymore as far as I can tell for them. So yeah, we don't have the rental store anymore. That's not something that is ever going to really come back, although I wish it would. And that's actually what has me so intrigued with specifically Game Pass and the structure that it has for it. I don't view Game Pass as like a Netflix per se. The way I look at it is it allows me to play a bunch of games either when they come out or later on once they're added to the service, and I can check them out. It's almost like a rental store. And that's how I personally use Game Pass, and why I wish that both Sony and Nintendo would have similar services. I'd gladly pay the additional amount of money per month to have a similar Game Pass structure on every platform. because it just allows me to try a bunch of different games, and ultimately, if I like those games, I'll want to add them to my collection. And that's the thing, for me, I like having a physical collection of games. It's something that, looking over at it now, it's like a trophy case for me. It's things I've enjoyed, things I can go back and enjoy, things that I'm looking forward to enjoying. But I don't care to collect every game. I want to be able to try as many games, and that's another thing. I want as many people to be able to play as many games as they want and try out games. For me, I used to work at Blockbuster during the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube era into the 360, PS3 era. So for me, I was getting 10 free rentals a week, and most of those were used for games. And that allowed me to play a bunch of games without having to pay for them. Actually, while getting paid to play them, kind of. So that's what has me most excited about Game Pass, and the fact that maybe Sony, and I'm not holding my breath, but possibly Nintendo, will have options in the future to allow people to actually experience those games. I guarantee you there's a bunch of kids that haven't played Breath of the Wild. The Switch is a massive success, and I don't know the specific attach rate for it, but I know for a fact that Mario Kart's way higher. And a lot of those kids probably would really sink their teeth into and enjoy Breath of the Wild. But parents aren't gonna spend the full price or the 33% off that it sometimes goes to get that game for their kid when their kid can play Fortnite for free. And I'm not knocking Fortnite. I'm not knocking Warzone. The fact that people love those games and like to play them is all great. I love that people love games. I just want more people to love more games. So what about you? Have you tried anything like Game Pass? Have you noticed that you're maybe buying less games now, or you're waiting for sales on certain games? I know for me, I tend to buy games full price, and the breaking point was Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And unless I'm really excited, I'm not going to be picking a game up on release. There's obviously exceptions to that. Breath of the Wild 2, please come out in 2022. But I feel more comfortable spending a whole bunch of money on Dreamcast and a Dreamcast game. I know that they're not going to be reproducing them as much, and if I want to play those games, I need to spend that money. Even if it goes down in price, I'm comfortable with what I've paid for it. However, it's a guarantee that more modern games are going to have to compete for our money, and those are going to have to go down in price in order to eventually get bought up by everyone. My question to you is, what do you want out of services like Game Pass? Are you looking to only play the newest releases when they come out, and the big hitters like Halo or Forza Horizon, or even something like Flight Simulator? Or are you looking to play some of the smaller indie titles? I've had a blast playing River City Girls with my wife, and I'm looking forward to playing Battletoads, as well as Yakuza Like a Dragon on there when I can actually sneak some time in. I still need to finish Zelda at this point. That'll be it for me, and I'll see you on Saturday for a short, as well as next Tuesday on Games Tuesday for a brand new video.